Windows networking. Our main objective is going to be able to configure Windows networking. There we go. Differentiate between administrative shares and network shares. Recognize how to establish network connections and configure card properties.
Yo, you don't mind sharing the screen for us?
Yeah. Apparently, there it is. Should be.
Thank you.
Not a problem. In a computer with Windows, there's 3 types of networking. As we mentioned already, you have your work group, you have your home group, and you have a domain. Anyone remember what's the variance between the 3? When will I use a work group?
If it's more of a business setting and you're like a pop-in shop, you can use the work group. You usually need a higher level window for that, usually a professional. And a work group is more of a much smaller scale of that, less functionality as well. They're both very similar, just up to their functionality, but domain is very different. You need Active Directory in order to use the domain.
Or a server, right? Some type of domain server. Any questions on the 3? Work groups. Alexa, if you can help us read this.
Work groups are the most basic and simple of the 3. Work groups lack centralized control over the network. All systems are equal. There is no server. By default, all Windows computers on the network are assigned to a work group called work group. Every computer on the network needs the same work group name to be able to share resources. Each computer must maintain a list of usernames and passwords for all the users in the work group. There are typically very few computers.
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions? I know we reviewed this. Keyword there is peer-to-peer. If you notice, it's not a server-client model. Peer-to-peer. Any questions or doubts on a work group? How many work groups can I have on one computer?
You mean in total?
In one computer, how many work groups can I create?
Probably 20.
That's how many computers I can put in a work group, but how many work groups can I create in one computer? It's not a trick question, it's only one. Just want to make sure you guys understand. A work group is the group that you're in. You can't be in several of them. If we go into your settings, if we go into the system settings that we saw earlier, there is no more than one that you can actually configure yourself to. You guys remember that one or no? I change my
I
settings.
remember it now.
I go and change my settings. Here I am. I can go to only one work group. It doesn't give me a list of how many work groups I want. I can be a member of one domain, one work group, one home group. Questions, doubts? I can't be in all 3. I can only be either in a work group, in a domain, or if you have the home version in a home group. Next one is here, the screen itself. Instead of saying the actual domain, it'll say you're in this work group and the name of the work group. Try to make it a friendly name. Don't name it work group, especially if you're dealing with several of them. That's not going to help you. Questions or doubts? A home group. Jordan, help me out this one.
Created for home use with a small number of users to facilitate the easy sharing of files and printers. It connects a group of computers using a common password, or you can choose not to use a password. No special usernames required. It shares Windows libraries with its content, music, pictures, videos, not specific folders. Home Group has its own applet on the control panel, and home groups require Windows 7 or above.
Any questions or doubts? Key thing here, if you notice, do I need to keep track? Is it an obligation to keep track of the user IDs and passwords?
No.
Makes it very simple for novices at home, you see? That's what it is for. Next slide. In our home group, here's the choices that you have. You can either share your pictures, your documents, music. You can see with ease, doesn't need an administrator or a tech-savvy person to go and share these folders. This will allow them to actually share it with no problems. Any questions or doubts? Next one is your domain. A lot of Saro, if you can help me with this one. You're muted, Lázaro.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
You mean now?
Yeah.
All right. Domain. A Windows domain is a type of client-server network. It is implemented on a larger private network, such as a corporate or cloud network. The domain forms a logical group of networks, computers controlled through a centralized directory database of user account information and security policies for the entire group of computers. The Windows Server Domain Controller controls the network using the directory database service called Active Directory. One of the benefits is users can log into any computer on the domain using the same domain account.
That's a great feature, obviously. It's one centralized location. Now I don't have to worry about making sure each computer has your ID. When you log on, since the computer is part of the domain, it gets all its rights from the domain controller. A lot of these companies, though, didn't realize this, and they had a centralized domain controller in their main office. But just imagine what would happen if your WAN connection goes down and you've never logged on to that computer. What would happen?
You wouldn't be able to access it depending on whatever policies they had.
You won't be able to, correct, because your ID is one, it's not cached in there, so it can't do a cache logged in. And there's no domain controller to authenticate you, so then it will not allow you to get in. So then, obviously, people learn very quickly in these type of facilities, you have to have, obviously, your centralized domain, and you have to have your child domain controllers, usually in the big sites. If you have a very small site, that's not a major issue, obviously. Most likely they have, those small sites will have a internet connection or some type of backup, other backups to get them on. But obviously, without a domain controller, though, you will not be able to log on if and only if you've never logged on to that computer before or that resource. For instance, if I am in my computer and I'm trying to get into a new server, and again, the domain controller is not on or it's not working, I won't be able to go into that actual server. Any questions or doubts? If I'm never logged into the server is what I want to finish that sentence with. Next one. How to share folders in a work group. So, has anyone ever shared a folder? No? All right. When you click on the folder itself, You can go onto the properties of any given folder. You'll see here sharing. And if you saw the other day, I also went into my C drive. There is a hidden C drive that is shared, which is C $. You see? Doesn't show it. Not shared, supposedly. So every drive, if you're trying to get into a given drive and you're an administrator, the C $ with the computer name in the front should get you into their drive. It's a hidden drive automatically from Windows. Versus if I want to go and share a specific folder, I go directly into that specific folder, and then I can actually share that folder. And what it basically happens is when you share it, it will be visible to all the computers on the given network. So now, if I go, as I did the other day, to my computer and search for that computer, N355384-2235. Here's that folder that I shared with ease. If you remember the other day when I looked at this computer, there was nothing there. And again, now if I go into this computer and I say C $, it'll get me to the actual C drive, although they says that it's not shared. In fact, it is. Questions or doubts? Obviously, you can share and also say who is able to get in or not, depending on their rights.
When you click on the permissions thing,
Mhm.
it says like read. You can like disable and enable, allow, and read and only.
Mhm.
What does it mean? Like you give full permissions to? There's like 3 options. I just did it.
Okay, let me see. Full permissions, you're saying on the sharing?
Yeah.
Full permissions, they will be able to obviously take control of that. So you got to be careful. Full permissions will basically give them full control. I can then become the owner of that folder and I can take you away from it.
Oh, okay.
Full control is something that you should usually not give to, especially the everyone group. You shouldn't be giving that out to. That is your choice, obviously. Full control does make it easier for them to be able to do everything, but be fully aware that if you do give full control, they can basically become owner of that folder. They can delete everything and they can remove you from it.
And then the change one is just to change what's inside.
Oh yeah, write
The
on the
whole-
write in folders, make a new folder. Read would only let them actually see and read, but they can't change the file. Any questions or doubts? All right. Next slide. Here you have your shared folders. So if I wanted to go in and verify what exactly is my server or my computer sharing, with ease inside the computer management, if I go in, open it up, I learned how to type it today. Come on. Anytime now. Well, we'll skip that. Doesn't want to show it. Looks like I'm blocked from it. I can't go into that screen.
I'm
Basi-
opening it right now. It says that for admin has remote admin. What does that mean? Description.
That's for remote administration. Admin, $, C Windows, remote administration. That's the path that is going to C Windows. Questions or doubts? So under shares, you should be able, and under sessions, you'll be able to see who's connected to you, by the way. If there's multiple computers connected to the server, you can actually go under sessions and see exactly who's there. And same with open files. Let's say you wanted to shut down the server, and it's telling you no, that there's specific people connected. You can go either into sessions and or you can see which files they have currently open and running. Sometimes people just maybe are left the file open, and then you can look up their ID and look up exactly who they are. Any questions or doubts? Administrative shares are created for servers running Windows networking administrative purposes, so for admins to be able to remotely go there. As I said, the shares usually on an OS, the root drive will be a $, making it hidden. Nobody will be able to see it automatically. They need to know what they're looking for. Any questions? All of them require administrative access to be able to get in here. Questions or doubts? Next slide. Network shares. This is different than actual shares on your computer. This is when the server has already shared the actual folder, and now you want to connect to that given share. Basically, you come in here into your actual thing, and you can actually map a drive. All right, that's the one that I want to go to. Obviously, open. This, how lock is this computer? For the love of Christ, I can't do that either. Okay, sorry. So basically, usually under the Windows Explorer, you should have tools. Mine doesn't have the tools. You have mine hidden. Very nice of them. Can't map drives from there. So let me see if I can do it differently. Oh yeah, I found a different way. You might hide it all they want, but I can find you. There you are. So basically, you select the drive that you want. Some applications require to have, let's say there's an application on the server, and then they require to have a shared folder. At the same time, be very careful because a lot of these applications require a specific letter for it to run. So it allows you to grab any of these letters. Obviously, if you notice, my C drive is gone. I can't select C drive because that already exists, but I can come in here and put that one, and then, no, that's not it. Look for a share on the network, or if I know what the folder's name is, and put the pipe of the actual folder that I'm looking for. I hit reconnect sign-in if I want to for it to reconnect us next time, or I can basically uncheck this so that next time it comes up, the user, it disappears. The Z drive would no longer be there. I can also, if I'm, let's say, because I'm maybe installing something and I wanted to map a drive temporarily, I can connect with my own credentials to the server because maybe that user that I'm logging in with is not able to actually do anything. So they may need other credentials to actually do it. So it'll prompt you at that point. Any questions on a map a network drive?
Is that similar to SAN?
You can connect to a SAN, but a map network drive is a shared drive that now you have assigned a letter to, so that your computer will see it as an actual drive on your computer. Let me show you now, watch. Let me actually share one, or sorry, map that drive that I had earlier on the computer. There you go. Yes. Let me get the computer name, and I'll map it here. You'll see that it'll be available for me. I say I want that guy, and I'll hit OK, and Z drive, and then hit finish. Should, the majority of times, open up the new window. And then you'll notice that I have a C drive and I have a Z drive now on my computer. If I go into my command prompt, it'll recognize this, the Z drive, like if it was inside my computer. No, not die. Type, right, Diego? Thank you. Questions or doubts? You'll notice here, it has that little, you can't see it very well. It has a little green pipe coming out, representing like if I'm on the network with the drive symbol. Any questions or doubts on the map drive? All right. Public or private networks? Christina, if you can help us out here with this slide.
Public and private networks. When a laptop connects to a public network, the user should ensure that the computer is protected from outside hackers and malware. Windows 7 offers 3 network security options, which are managed by network discovery settings. Public network. Network discovery is turned off and you cannot join a home group or domain. Home network. Network discovery is turned on and you could join a home group. Work network. Network discovery is turned on. You can join a domain, but you cannot join a home group.
Any questions on that one? Everybody know what they're talking about there? Have you ever seen that when you connect your Wi-Fi somewhere and it asks you a certain question? Never connected to a Wi-Fi and it asks you what type of network you're connecting to?
Well, when I ask like, is this a home network? Is this a private network? Is this a
That's what it's asking you. Yep.
Yeah, asking.
Exactly what it's asking you there. Wants to make sure what type of network you're connecting to, because obviously if you're on a public network, you want to make sure that your computer is protected. Has to be able to differentiate which type of network you're on when it comes to the Wi-Fi settings. Any questions or doubts? Here's a slide, what it looks like. So when you come in, you'll notice you have, like we said, the home, your work, and your public. Be careful with this little check mark. Why would it be a bad thing?
Well, let's say you have that on, you put public, or you put home or work, and let's say you're at your home network, and then you went to some public coffee shop. Automatically, you're gonna be in home network mode.
Read it carefully.
No?
Read
Hold
that.
on. I have to make my screen bigger.
It says treat all future networks that I connect to as public, and don't ask me again. Be very careful with that one. You'll be surprised how many users have given me trouble just because they went and selected that one, and then they couldn't see anybody on certain Wi-Fi's. Any questions or doubts on the 3 features? Next slide. Establishing network connections. Very basic. You have set up a new network. You can connect to the internet, setting it up with broadband, manually connect to wireless networks, connect to a VPN or a dial-up, or set up a dial-up connection. This was used a lot back in the days when you didn't have a Soho router and you had your computer was the only thing that was trying to get out. These features here were very useful. Obviously, when you select, it will ask you how you're going to connect. If you're connecting wireless, broadband, or PPOE, or PPPoE, which is obviously with the little username and password, and or dial-up. What's dial-up?
Telephone lines, basically. The original internet.
Yeah. So it'll be either a modem or an ISDN that you're using. When you manually configure it, you can actually put the actual little friendly name you like, the security type, and or security keys if it's encrypted, depending on how it is, what you're doing. Question? Next one, when you're connected to a workplace, you can obviously use the actual internet to connect to the VPN, or you can dial directly, depending on what is that you are trying to configure. Usually, like I said, all these companies will have the actual instructions. If you need to create one of these things, you just need to know exactly where it is so that you can actually use and or configure the information. In this case here, when you're setting up a dial-up, you have the phone number that you're going to dial, the username and password provided to you by the ISP, like AOL or Yahoo back in the days, and you can name with a friendly name your actual connection. Careful with this one too. If I allow other people to use this connection, other people on my network will be able to connect through my dial-up. Network card properties. Anybody know what's half duplex or full duplex or auto?
So auto means it will automatically switch to either half or full, depending on what it sees is better. Half usually means it can only send or receive at a time, versus full duplex meaning you can do both at the same time.
Okay. You guys understand that that's in reference to the network card itself. You can actually do different speeds. Instead of leaving it on auto, you can specify the speed that you want to maintain. Anyone ever use Wake on LAN? Wake on LAN
Nope.
is a way to actually wake up the computer while it's turned off. As we said, it was on standby mode. Now you know why it also has that little standby mode of 5 volts. Basically, a wake up packet is sent via MAC to the actual card, and the card will then respond by initiating a turn on the unit itself. So remotely, you'll be able to turn on the computer without having to press the button in the front. That's Wake on LAN. Questions or doubts? When would I use Wake on LAN?
I guess in specific situations, let's say maybe you have to wake up a computer that was not in use at the moment to save power, or I don't know, maybe you have full control of the computer and you want to wake it up for the user when necessary.
Yeah, a lot of times, like you said, the user maybe left, computer went, and they turned it off, but they have a ticket open for you to go and install something. Wake on LAN will obviously help you, so you don't have to get up, travel to the site or to the other floor or other side of the building, and basically turn it on. And now you can proceed to wait. It usually takes, obviously, you got to be realistic. It's going to take almost a minute or two for it to turn on and fully boot up before you're going to see it on the network. What's QoS?
Quality of service.
And what does it help me?
It can, for lack of a better word, partition bandwidth for certain processes that might have more. I don't know. I'm drawing blanks for words today.
Mm-hmm.
More important processes that can partition bandwidth for them.
Mm-hmm. It's I guess yeah, that's basically
Like prioritizes stuff.
Yes.
yes. It prioritizes all the critical parts of the network that you want. For instance, you could have quality of service to guarantee bandwidth for voice over IP, or maybe you want to make sure FTP has a quality of service. That way, if updates start coming in, if all of a sudden your computer or the server is getting pounded by certain things, the QoS will be able to obviously prioritize the critical traffic and prevent from bandwidth being hogged. You could even throttle email. Email is an infamous one to eat up a lot of the bandwidth of users. Obviously, this is just things to know. We wouldn't be touching too much these things in there, but it is available to us. Most of these things, obviously, if we want to deal with the circuit itself, we would have to purchase what they call the MPLS, the multi-protocol switching, layer switching, and or QoS from the actual ISP. Versus here, this is mainly the machine itself and how you want it to process anything that's going through that network card. Any questions or doubts? And then the BIOS onboard NIC. So as we know, cards usually have firmware or BIOS. Any questions? No? All right. Duplexing, as we stated a moment ago, duplexing means the type of communication that takes place either both ways at the same time or only one way. As he stated, half duplex is only one way at a time versus full duplex allows the NIC card to send and receive the information. Auto is obviously the way to do it. Usually that's easier to, so like that, it can be able to sense what you're connecting to. Be very careful because if you force it to be full duplex, half duplex, and then somebody has manually configured a managed switch to be either full duplex or half duplex, it may not work. Same thing with the speed. If they manually set a speed and you're manually setting a speed, it's not going to work. So usually people leave these things on auto. Let it auto sense and let the hardware, what's the network equipment, the switch or the hub, whatever you're connecting to, let it decide how it wants to negotiate the communication. Any questions or doubts? Next one is your speed. As we know, that is obviously the highest possible that it can run. It doesn't mean that it will run always at 100 megabytes. It just means that that's the fastest that it can actually connect to. 100 base T cards, or you have the 1000 base T cards for the Cat 6E and 7, 6E and 7, right? Any other questions or doubts? So they both work together, speed and duplex. Need to make sure you know the variances. Here inside your actual link speed and duplexing, how is it that I go and change it? Well, when I go and look at the actual network card settings, the connection, I can go into the properties of advanced and look up the link and speed duplexing. You can change it from auto negotiating and force it to whatever speed you want. Questions or doubts? Wake on LAN, part of the power management of the actual controller here. So you'll see that in power management, you have the actual capability to allow the device to save power, allow the device to wake up, and only a magic packet will wake the computer up. Magic packet was the one that I talked to you about. A little fairy packet that comes and says, yo, wakey, wakey. Questions or doubts?
I don't quite understand this one.
You don't understand the wake on LAN itself?
Yeah, like the concept.
It's basically to allow administrators to turn on computers when they're turned off. That's the purpose of it. So let's say it happened to me a lot. I had people in Brazil or in Mexico turned off their computers, but I need to work on it. They opened up a ticket and I need to install something on it. The wake on LAN, as long as the computer is connected to the LAN, it will let me do it. NIC card. Phrase that one. It'll be a NIC card, not a wireless NIC. Has to be physically connected to a switch. It's the only purpose of it, making sure the administrators have full access to the computer, even if it's turned off.
Okay, thank you.
UOS, as we mentioned, stated a little while ago, it implements packet scheduling to control the flow of traffic and obviously to ensure that you don't get bogged down because of some nasty application that you may have, or maybe you want to guarantee a certain application to be able to send that type of traffic. BIOS, onboard NIC. While some older devices may have cards installed in slots, most of these devices now have the NIC integrated on the actual motherboard. Therefore, make sure that in case of these people are having problems, God only knows how in the world they got in there, verify that it is not disabled inside. Might be inside the BIOS that somebody went and touched something. Questions or doubts? Next slide. Here we are. That was a little quicker than the other one. Question Juan. Alexa.
A small office experiences frequent power outages. Upon rebooting the Windows workstations after each power outage, Users report the inability to open shared files. Which of the following must technician configure to resolve the issue in the future?
What do you think? A, B, C, or D? They're having a lot of power outages, so the computer can continue to turn on, off again. And then they can't get into their shared files. What could be that problem that they forgot to do when they were first mapping that drive? Sorry, I just said it.
See?
Actually, there's several ones here with map. I guess I didn't give the answer. When you're mapping the drive, what is it that I have to make sure so that the next time I turn it on, the map drive is still there? If not, it's going to erase it the next time it turns on. Doesn't really matter about the power. Really doesn't matter here, because even if they turn it off and on, it's gone. Matter of fact, it can log off and log back on, and it's gone. Nope. So there's something that they need to make sure that they do so it stays saved. Which one of those does it say that it's gonna stay saved? Would it be A, check the reconnect at long on? Checkbox is on for the map drive. Connect all computers in the office to a UPS device. Remap the map drive with a domain administrative account. Ouch, that's dangerous. Replace the hard drive on the file server hosting the shared files.
I'm going to say A.
Definitely A. A is the one that's the problem, because they're trying to trick you with the question, telling you, oh, power's going off, this and that. Doesn't matter. Like I said, if you do not check that little box, the moment you log off and log back on, it's gone. Don't ever map a network drive with the domain rights and check that button. Because I did say that you can log on with domain rights, because sometimes you have to be logged on as a user to do a certain task, but you need to get onto the server as an administrator. That's when you would actually log on with your credentials. But you want to make sure that that little check mark is off so that the next time they come in, they're not logging onto that server with your ID and password. Obviously, depending on your policies, maybe it's 30 days before your ID and password gets changed, but then that's another problem, because then they're going to call you back after the 30 days when you change your password if they haven't noticed that they're logged on, because it's not going to tell them it's your ID and password that's on there. It's going to ask them for the credentials. Any questions or doubts on this one? Next question. Number 2, Daniel. Daniel? Hello.
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted for some reason. No, I heard you. I was like, what question are we to, right?
Yeah.
What was up?
All right.
Let's see. So, which applicant can be used to solve the failed network connection?
No, number
Troubleshooting?
2. And no, you're in the wrong presentation. Number 2 says an office with 25 computers is interested in employing as file server, network shares, and print server functionality. Which of the following network setups would best be suited for this situation? Got 25 computers. Would it be A, a domain controller, B, ad hoc, B, work group, or D, home group? He's got 25 computers and he wants to use a server and network shares.
Would it be home group?
I'd go with C.
I don't think it could be C because the max amount is 20. And home group is kind of very private if you think about it. Like you're sharing a lot of files easily. It's more meant for a private network. You're going to be
Yeah.
sharing a lot of stuff.
Home group, just think about it, it's for your home, for your house. Not meant for working purposes. Work group, meant for work. It's a small group of people who are working together.
Also, ADHOC is not a group, really. It's a method of connecting.
Yep. Ad hoc is more in reference to AP.
Isn't ad hoc more like peer-to-peer?
Yeah, but it's a type of more in reference to the connection itself, not the shares. That's just them throwing words in there just to try to confuse you. So you either have a domain, a work group, and a home group. Those are the three that we were looking at, right? The domain is the biggest one, which allows servers, network shares, and printers to be shared within the large groups. The one that's a little bit smaller and requires for every single computer to have the ID in every computer, the password to be the same on every computer. So the ID and password must match. And then obviously, as Lázaro stated a moment ago, it needs to be that less than 20. And they specifically said 25. Any questions or doubts? Number 3. Carlos, which half duplex communications with half duplications I can't even read today.
It travels back and forth, but at a given time. So
okay.
Yeah, so I go with B.
Everyone agree?
Yes.
All right. Number 4. DeAndre, which Windows network type is the most basic and simple of the 3? What we learned.
Going to be B, work group.
Everyone agree?
Correct.
I agree.
Work group doesn't require me to put anything to anybody, right? I can just put that you're in the work group. The only problem is you'll be able to see the computer, but if every computer doesn't have the ID and password the same, they won't be able to get into the computer. Obviously, if they know what your ID and password is, I can go and try to go to your computer through the network because I see it, and then just use your ID and password. That is the most simplest one, correct. Next is actually the original one was work group and just work group and domain. That was original ones. Number 5, what networking setup allows for anyone to join the network with a simple password? All I need is a password. Don't need an ID or anything. Maybe I don't even want to put a password. Which one allows me to do that?
Work group.
Hmm?
B. As in boy.
Remember,
I'll say B.
I still need
I
an
think
ID.
it's A.
And remember that when we're work group, although the administration is simple because I'll have to be in the same work group per se on that fact. But when I try to go into your computer, it's going to ask me for an ID and password if I don't have that ID and password in there. Keyword, ID and password. This one only with a simple password I can get in. I don't need an ID. Which one is that one?
A.
Home group.
Home group, right? Home group is the one that you can actually set a little secret password so that if you felt like it, or I could just leave it without a password at all, and then anybody in the home group can get in. I still have to pick. It's more complicated because then I have to pick if I want to share my pictures, if I want to share my documents. I have to, all that GUI stuff. While in work group, all I have to do is just join the work group. I can see the resources in there. Any questions or doubts? All right, stopping the recording here.